The Sanders campaign is over. What are the lessons learned? Finn has the top 5 reasons. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, there I was on Middle America during Super Tuesday when it became clear to me that Mr. Sanders got trounced on Super Tuesday. I was commenting on Middle America. If you'd like to join, dear listener, it's facebook.com/America Middle. And you can take part in the discussions, the community, all that jazz. It is a free speech environment, so unless somebody threatens somebody, we basically let it fly over there. But anyway, once I saw state after state after state fall to Mr. Biden, particularly Texas, I wrote, "It is over, Izzy." That's Isabel. And because Isabel is the Middle America representative of the actual Bernie Sanders campaign. Like, I love Bernie. I thought he was great. I'd have voted for him. Voted for a Democrat for the first time in my life. I'd have voted for him. But Izzy actually was doing door-to-door work, etc. for Bernie. So I said, it's over. And then, of course, Matthew Maeda said, "What's wrong with you, Vincent? Why are you always being the bearer of bad news? This is not over. There's another Tuesday coming, yada, yada, yada." Then we saw yesterday people were saying, oh, Washington and Michigan. Now, Mr. Sanders won Washington apparently by 0.2 or 0.5%, but it's not a winner-take-all situation. So Biden essentially won Washington because he and Bernie are going to split delegates. And I'm not even sure to this moment if there are some states where Bernie was hovering around not even qualifying for a delegate count because Biden beat him like a drum. And Biden won Michigan. And I could tell that Biden was going to win Michigan because of Michael Moore. I was listening to Michael Moore's podcast. He's got that Rumble podcast. I suggest you subscribe to it. Michael Moore, who was prescient about what was going to happen in 2016, when he started talking about Michigan. It's in episode number 49. He sounded like his cat died. I mean, it was horrible. It's depressing. And if you saw Michael Moore on MSNBC yesterday, he had the same type of affect. It's done. It's over. Now, Bernie stood up today and he said, "It's not over. I'm still in the race," and yada, yada, yada. That's fine. That's fine. But here we go, dear listener. The top 5 reasons for why Bernie Sanders lost this time around. The first time around, we could safely say that he was screwed by the DNC, screwed by Hillary Clinton, yada, yada, yada. That was very fair. This time around, I'm sorry, the blame has to go squarely on the shoulders of Bernard Sanders. Reason number 1. Actually, this is reason number 5. Reason number 5, he went along with the getting Trump out is the most important thing to do narrative silliness that was spun by the DNC for the last 4 years. In the last 4 years, the DNC has made a hyperbolic, insane boogeyman out of Donald Trump. They have turned this man who is basically, if you compare Trump's political record to Bill Clinton's political record, they're basically the same guy, only Trump is not as horrible to black people as Clinton was. I mean, they're basically the same guy. Immigration, Trump is softer on immigration than Obama was. Obama's the deporter-in-chief, we all know that. But there is a strange yarn that got spun that Trump was literally Hitler, he was worse than the Nazis, and so all you heard for the last 4 years is the most important thing on our agenda is we have got to get Donald Trump out of office. That's all we heard. And I was here pleading during the impeachment stuff, during the Mueller trial, to say, can we please focus on the actual issues? Can we focus on health care? Can we focus on the fact that we've got 28 million Americans uninsured? Can we focus on the fact that thousands of Americans are dying because of things that are preventable, because of lack of health care and health insurance? And what did we hear over and over again? Donald Trump is the most dangerous president of our lifetime. This was specific. I'm quoting verbatim from Bernie himself. You know what happens when you say that the number one priority is getting rid of Donald Trump? You know what happens? What that means is you can then come out after 4 years of beating this same drum over and over again. You can come out and say, even if Medicare for All made it to my desk as the president, said Joe Biden about 2 days ago, I would veto it. Why? Because you, Bernie Sanders voter, have to vote for this guy, Biden. Why? Because getting Trump out is the most important thing, and Medicare for All is subordinate to that. See how that works? See what happens when you make a power grab the most important agenda in your platform? You end up putting people in situations where they have got to vote for a person because the entire election now is about getting Trump out of office, you see. I was watching a mini debate between Crystal Ball and Cenk yesterday. And Crystal Ball was saying, I'm not sure I'm going to vote this time around. And Cenk was like, whoa, we got to get Trump out of office. Why do we need to get Trump out of office? What will happen? What will happen if we put Biden in office over and against Trump? Biden has already showed his hand. He's already going to get his Wall Street buddies and his major banker buddies and put them in positions of power. What will change? We've already heard Biden tell his folks, the super rich folks, nothing is going to fundamentally change under my administration. But you see, because you've hyperbolized how horrible Donald Trump is, you have made him the number one issue. And because of that, now all of the folks who are supposed to vote for Bernie are supposed to fall in line. And unfortunately, Bernie, you went along with it. You went along with the Mueller silliness. You went along with the Russia silliness. And what happened when you went along with the Russia silliness, Bernie? They turned around and put it on you. They leaked it right before Nevada. So last time we had a victory was Nevada for Bernie. But they leaked it the day before the election went down. Bernie played the exact same silly game that the rest of the DNC was playing. He hyped up the Russia silliness. When the Russia silliness went down, instead of jumping ship and saying, hey, let's focus on the issues, let's put healthcare in the consciousness of the American people, CNN, MSNBC. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to jump straight onto the Zelensky call and the silliness of the Ukraine stuff. And then he went along with that. And he went along with impeachment. Well, if you go along with that narrative, Bernie, that the most important thing to do is to get Trump out of office, then when the establishment Dems coalesce around one guy and Obama makes the phone calls, then they're going to blackmail your people, Bernie, and you have no leverage because you were preaching that gospel. You can't turn around now at 11:59 and say, whoa, there's bigger things here than unseating Trump, like Medicare for. You can't do that now because you were going along with it the whole time. It's reason number 5. Reason number 4, Elizabeth Warren. and aside from Elizabeth Warren, there's a macro issue going on here. And this is one of those things where I hope progressives can learn from their enemies. Did you see what happened when Obama made his phone call? You know, Biggie had a line in one of his songs. All I gotta do is make one phone call. All y'all be gone by tomorrow. All Obama did was make one phone call. It's probably a conference call. Amy Klobuchar, Mayor Pete, Beto had to put down the bomb. YouTube, don't hit me for that. You know it's true. He got them all there. He said, Beto, I need you to put down the bong and listen to what I'm going to say. And all of those guys lined up, and person after person after person lined up like good soldiers behind Sleepy Joe Biden. That's what happened. The day before Super Tuesday, They all lined up. They all coalesced together around their establishment candidate. Now look, I don't like it per se, but that's not the same thing as what Clinton was doing with the DNC last term, guys. Sorry. This isn't some major conspiracy. These people from the beginning were saying we're conservative, centrist, neoliberal Democrats, and we are not down with this craziness of what Bernie Sanders is doing with socialism and all the other stuff. And so that's a fair play. You know what didn't happen? Elizabeth Warren, Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, even crazy Marianne Wilson kind of did. They didn't come together and back their guy. You see, the fact of the matter is that, people are going crazy about Andrew Yang supporting Biden. Look, again, this goes back to point one. What did Biden say? What did Yang say? Well, the most important thing is supporting the Democrats so that we can beat Donald Trump, and Biden has a mathematical, whatever to do that. Fine. I'm not mad at him for that. What should have happened after the establishment coalesced around their empty-suited stooge. God forgive me, I shouldn't say that because he might be the president. You shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. I shouldn't say that. But when the establishment got together and coalesced around Biden, the progressives should have gotten together. Tulsi should have said, there's no way we're going to win. Bernie should have said, look, Tulsi, I'll make you a Secretary of State. Okay, and then you can go and get us out of these wars, okay? And then, Andrew, if you can find some way to get $1,000 to every American on top of my health care and on top of my student loans, then great, we can do that too. He should have got all those people together, and Marianne Wilson, he could have given her a little yoga room where she could have lit some incense and all the rest of it. And there should have been an Elizabeth Warren. He should have said, Liz, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ignore the lie that you told about me, and we're going to make you the vice president. And they should have came together, they should have coalesced around Bernie, and they should have said, let's go. I believe that would have had a massive impact on Super Tuesday, but the Progressive Party, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, does not understand the principle of organization. They don't understand it from the media perspective. You got TYT over here, you got this guy over there, you got these guys over here, and they obviously don't understand it from the political perspective. Hopefully, they can understand it now. That's what should have happened. That's reason number 4. Reason number 3, the black vote in South Carolina, James Clyburn, and the inability of the left to hold black voters accountable. You remember what happened? I don't know if you saw the TYT meltdown video. I'm too lazy to get the clip for you, but I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you definitely have seen the TYT video. Where and when they did the numbers and it was like white women voted for Trump, like 52% of white women or something like this, some crazy number of white women voted for Trump, and Anna Spirit had her big meltdown and said, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, if you're a woman and you voted for Trump, I have no respect for you because you're voting against your own self-interest, and no. She had this giant meltdown. All these outlets, here's one right here, why are white women voting for against their own interest, as if all white women have the same exact interest. Newsflash, there's lots of white women, for example, that don't believe in abortion. I interviewed 2 of them a couple weeks ago. I know people on the progressive left want to pretend that those women don't exist, or that they're in some cloistered monastery somewhere, but one of them was an atheist. And she's more radically pro-life than anybody that I've interviewed so far. So that's one. But why was Anna so animated about calling out white women? And who is it? Christine Gillibrand, where she was talking about when she becomes president, she's going to go door to door and explain white privilege to white women. White women took an absolute beating from the left, which I'm sure is gonna make them vote for their candidate this time around. But you notice how quiet the left is about criticizing the black vote? Remember what I told you in the last video? I said black voters are the easiest, most easily manipulatable demographic in the electorate, and it's true. You can go back and look at the previous video and see Joe Biden, for all of his evil racist antics and his evil racist language and his horrific the horrific bills that he passed and he authored that have absolutely and completely destroyed the black community for generations on end. And ironically enough, is the reason, by the way, that the black pastor or the black community organizer has such a drastic effect on the mind of black voters. You know why? Because the vast majority of us grew up without any male black authority figures. And so the pastor or the rapper then becomes the male authority figure. So when Jay-Z tells you to vote for Obama, my president is black. In fact, he's half white. So even in a racist mind, he's half right. If you got a racist mind, you'd be all right. Your president is black, but the house is still white. Remember that? So when the black rapper or the black pastor, especially in the South, tells you to go in a certain direction, people will unwittingly march in that direction. You see, there's a vast difference between men like Dr. King and Brother Malcolm X and Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan and guys like Clyburn. Don't get it twisted. Malcolm X would not have been welcome in the current Democratic Party at all. And if you think that, that's because you don't understand how Brother Martin thought. This is the reason a couple days ago you had that silly white lady telling the Bernie Sanders surrogate that Biden is not the white moderate that Martin Luther King was talking about, and you can't compare Biden to the white moderate. Biden is exactly, and everybody who's on his crew is exactly the type of white moderate that Brother Martin was talking about from that Birmingham jail. Verbatim he was. But you see, this lady had the temerity to get up on national TV and say that. Then she gave the apology and saying, angry black women are allowed to be angry black women. And then she tried to delete it and all the rest of it. Here's the point, is that the establishment left has complete disdain for black people. They don't respect us at all, and nor should they. And the progressive left, because of their identity politics and because of there are certain people you can't touch, have not been able to say anything to black voters and hold them accountable for the fact that they're unthinking and that they often cast votes against their own self-interest. And so the progressive left needs to find someone or some way to call out the black community and hold them accountable. Otherwise, this is just going to continue to happen. Okay. The number two reason, the second of the 5 reasons that Mr. Bernie Sanders lost this time around was he called himself a socialist. Now I know what's going to happen. People are going to say, Vincent, you're rolling your eyes right now. If you're a canonical Bernie person, you're rolling your eyes right now, and you're saying it's not socialism, Vin. It's democratic socialism, and then you got to go and explain the difference between socialism and democratic socialism, yada yada yada. Sorry, man. It was too clunky, and it was too awkward, and many of us had to stop and explain to people over and over again what we were talking about, and I think it really hurt him. I've had conversations with people who are beneficiaries of social plans. Okay, you want to talk about speaking gets your own stuff. Beneficiaries of social plans that capitalism, if the capitalists got their way, would completely end those entitlements, which, by the way, Trump is saying he's going to do. So it's probably going to happen anyway. And at some level, you get what you get. I've had to explain to people, wait a second, no, hey, you want this. This is good for you. Nope, it's socialism, Vin. And then they start talking to you about bread lines. You know what's happening over there in Venezuela? You want America to be like Venezuela, eating dogs and such? Terrible strategy. Terrible strategy. Look, man, somewhere in some war room somewhere, somebody said, let's call ourselves democratic socialists. And for people who like nuance, like college grads and people who watch TYT for 5 hours a day and all the rest of it, that's great. We love it. Yay. Twitter people, young people. Here's something that didn't make the list, but young people just do not vote. They don't vote. They put all this stuff out on Twitter and Facebook, and they really think they're doing something to change the world. But they don't actually vote when it's time to vote. That's what happened. Sanders had there was a terrible showing for young voters in Super Tuesday. And so look, so you appeal to people that are on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, but actual people who go to the ballot, these are older generation folks, 45 plus, man, they're not trying to hear anything about socialism. They all remember being, the Red Scare and all the rest of it. Christopher Matthews, he became unhinged. You talk about getting shot in Central Park and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, that's how people that age think, man. The minute they hear socialism, they completely shut down. I thought that was a horrible, horrible tactical error. Now, me personally, I don't care what you call it. If you're talking about finding a way to get those Americans insured, and you're talking about finding a way to get these American kids some college debt relief, I'm down with it. I don't care what you call it. But there are very, very few people like me. We're in the Twitter generation, Bernie. And the minute people hear socialism, they're going to shut down. They're not, I was listening to Michael Moore valiantly trying to say, it's not socialism, it's democratic socialism, and I'm tired of having to explain it. Well, Bernie put us in a situation where we had to fight. I had to fight with Christians who have canonized capitalism. I had to fight with them and explain to them, one, that I was still a Christian, even though I was supporting a socialist. Figure that out. And two, the difference, the fact that we were not going to end up like Venezuela. And I constantly had to do that. So by the time you're in that argument, you're not even talking about the actual issues because you get stuck arguing about socialism. Terrible strategy. What he should have done was to present himself as the logical extension to FDR. That's what he should have done. Because if you remember, people were calling FDR a Bolshevik, which is basically a communist. Look, it's been a long-standing Republican trope to call everybody who wants to do any sort of social programming a socialist. Okay, they called Obama a socialist. He dodged that bullet like crazy. He didn't say, "Well, I'm an Obama socialist," and there's a world of a difference. He didn't do that. He said, "Man, y'all lying. I'm not a socialist. I'm just talking about getting people health care." And he stayed on message, and he made the issue about the message, and so that accusation bounced off of him. But somewhere in the war room somewhere, somebody said, you know what, that accusation that Republicans really believe is a potent weapon, let's apply it to ourselves. How anyone thought that was a good idea is beyond me. Look, man, what he should have done was presented himself as a logical extension of FDR, and what he should have done, and I'll talk about this in the last point, was say, look, Obama was the next iteration of FDR, but he got corrupted by the big banks, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why we had the ACA still leave 28 million people off. I'm not going to get corrupted because I've got 40 years of saying the same thing over and over again. And then he could have said, look, these people are talking about me being a socialist. They called FDR a Bolshevik. Bolshevik were like the sort of protogenitors of what you know as communism now. The guys went over there and killed the Tsar and all the rest of it. And he could have said, man, I'm not worried about what they're saying. That's the same thing they said about FDR. But you know what? If those same people who was going after FDR had their way, we wouldn't have Social Security right now. And we wouldn't have we wouldn't have unions, and we wouldn't have unemployment insurance. The most important program of 1935, and perhaps the New Deal as a whole, was the Social Security Act. It established a permanent system of universal retirement pensions, Social Security, unemployment insurance, and welfare benefits for the handicapped and needy children and families without a father present. It established a framework for the United States welfare system. Roosevelt insisted that it should be funded by payroll taxes rather than from the general fund, etc., etc., etc. All he has to do is read that paragraph and say, these same people, after the Great Depression, and FDR, one of his major issues was, man, we got to find some way to depression-proof this country. You're never going to recession-proof a country, but we got to find some way to depression-proof this country. So you had Social Security, unemployment benefits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These things that are, now we talk about the unemployment rate and the people on unemployment, it's baked into our system. The capitalists at the time didn't even want that. They were accusing the man of being a Bolshevik. That's all you had to do. And that way, anytime somebody attacked you, you could say, you're the same people that if you would have had it your way, there'd be no unemployment insurance, there'd be no Social Security, and all these single moms with kids would be without any sort of welfare safety net whatsoever, and you claim that you're a family values pro-life person. What do you think would happen with the abortion numbers if we didn't even have welfare? You see? And you can paint these people as absolute villains. And you can say, okay, now that we're in 2020, there's a massive gap that FDR didn't cover that needs to be covered, and that's simply healthcare. Right? Very simple. And then the accusations would have been turned, you would have basically been able to turn the sword of the people against them and basically shoot them with their own gun. But what ended up happening? You call yourself a socialist. And instead of rooting your ideas in American history and the American dream, et cetera, which would have been the FDR route, you rooted it in saying Denmark and all these other, look, bro, Bernie, do you believe that the people in Michigan and Ohio and in Jupiter, Florida and in Melbourne, Florida, you think these people care what's happening in Denmark? Come on, bro. You think they can even... I'm not going to say that. This is a bad play. He should have rooted it in the American dream. He should have rooted it in the American tradition. He should have rooted it in depression-proofing America. And the rhetoric would have been perfect because you could have basically have demonized anybody that came against you. You see. But he didn't. He tried to go global with it, and look, I'll even tell you, like, I'm not really a fan of appealing to Denmark and all these other places, man. Like, that doesn't really appeal to me. I'm an immigrant. I wasn't born here, but I'm USA through and through. I'll fight, kill, and die for this country. So, anything you could do. It would have been a great version of America First. It would have been a populist, compassionate, America First type message. But what did you do? You talked about Europe and all the rest of it. Man, Americans ain't trying to be like Europe, bro. It's a bad play. It's a bad play. Terrible play. And what it left us with was foot soldiers who had to constantly explain this stuff. And I feel like this is more of the bubble stuff happening, where people in your bubble like this stuff, but regular Americans are not trying to hear that, man. Nobody in Ohio is trying to call themselves a socialist. All right, the number one reason. Now, that almost was my number one reason, but this has overcome the number one reason. The number one reason Bernie Sanders lost this time around is because he is not Trumpian enough. Look, guys, somebody asked Bernie Sanders recently, do you think Joe Biden can win? Do you think he can beat Trump? Yes. Why would you say something like that? Somebody asked Bernie in the town hall, I think, about Biden's mental state. He said, that's for you guys to decide. I'm not going to talk about that. Joe Biden's my friend. Huh? Look, I'm not one of these people, he said AR-14 instead of AR-15. I don't really think that that's that big of a deal, to be honest with you. If I look back at this video, I'm sure in the last half an hour I've said a couple misspeakings. Like that, I don't have a problem with that, to be honest with you. Everybody, look, the left wing was doing that with Bush. You could get a whole bunch of Bush, there's this video on Bush and tribal sovereignty, and he just completely melted down. There's a mashup video of Obama without his teleprompter, and he said a bunch of stupidness. What he said, like 51 states or something like that. Sarah Palin said she could see, I forgot, Antarctica or something from her window. So I'm not really a fan of these gotcha things. But when you're in the debate and they ask you a question about education, and you start rambling about the record player, play the record player at night. That stuff that was going on in the 60s, family. It's 2020, bro. When he talks about corn pop, when he mistakes his wife for his sister or vice versa, when everybody's talking about Super Tuesday and he says Super Thursday, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Like, I'm an immigrant, and that is burned in my brain. 2nd grade, Miss Moulton, Kennebec Christian Academy, burned in my brain. How in the world do you forget something like that? And you could tell that it completely slipped his mind because he goes, you know the thing. People in the back were finishing it for him, and then, it didn't finish. These are massive cognitive issues, y'all. The anger, yelling at people, calling people, shushing women, disrespecting women, calling her a damn liar, dog-faced pony soldier. What he just said to the guy who confronted him about the 2A stuff. Like, these are all symptoms of a guy who doesn't have any awareness of where he is. So again, there are a couple things, he mistook Vermont for New Hampshire, which, I go to rock shows and sometimes they'll say, "What's up, Boston?" And we were in Manchester. When you're doing like the jet setting thing and you're in like 9 cities in 4 days, like, I can forget. Those are separate issues to me, man. But he had some serious, he had Kamala Harris on the stage and he talked about, he's like, I was there for the only black woman who was in Congress. And Kamala's like, hello, I was there. And then he goes, I said the first. No, you didn't. You didn't. These are not gaffes. These are indications. And it's really kind of sad if you look at interviews of and debates of 4 years ago. He was just much sharper, more clear-eyed, and now it's obvious he's in cognitive decline. And what does Bernie say? Oh, I'm not going to comment on that. Bernie's my friend. Bernie can beat Trump. No, he can't. They were asking the Republicans in 2016. They said, if you don't win, will you support whoever wins? And everybody raised their hands except for Trump. You know what Trump is saying? Trump is saying, nah, man. This whole Never Trump campaign, all the other things that you guys are doing, if you guys don't give me a fair shake, I'm not going to tell my people to vote for you. Those 20,000 seat auditoriums that I'm filling up with all the Sea and MAGA hats, I'm not going to tell those people to vote for you, family. You better give me my due. You notice? Look, a lot of, I was listening to the Young Turks and they were bellyaching about how it's impossible to overcome the media industrial complex when it gets together with the establishment and the DNC. I am sorry, I don't buy that. First of all, there was no Never Bernie campaign. There was an underground Never Bernie campaign, but the Republicans had the audacity, the temerity, the unmitigated gall to come out and say, we are against this dude. Lindsey Graham, Ben Shapiro, all these people came out and said, we are against this dude, Never Trump, during a primary. And Trump overcame that. Why? Because he was willing to hold the entire party hostage. He was willing to say, nope. If you guys screw me, I am not going to tell my folks to walk in line. We're out. You can have Hillary. And obviously there's differences between how the DNC primaries and the GOP between, winner take all versus, divided delegates and all this and the super delegates and all the rest of it. But the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump knew who he was. Donald Trump knew he was an outsider. Donald Trump understood that he just wanted that GOP money and the launch pad that running as a Republican can get you, but he knew good and well that he was an independent and that the party was about him. He understood that. Bernie, on the other hand, does not understand. You see people now lamenting and saying the Republican Party is not the Republican Party, it's the party of Trump. And there is only one other human being in the union right now that can create a situation where the party is his party, and that was Bernie Sanders. But Bernie refused to do it. He refused to be the king. So he says all this nice stuff. Oh, Hillary, I don't want to talk about your emails. I don't want to talk about your damn emails. And then he goes and he endorses her, and he does 40 all over the place, goes to the Rust Belt places, the places where she won't even step foot, and campaigned his heart out and made sure that as many of his folks possible could vote for her. And what did she do? Did she appreciate it? Hell no, she didn't appreciate it. And Bernie still doesn't understand. Bernie is in I think what happened in 2016 shook his self-confidence and made it so that he believed that unless he got to be friends with the DNC, that he was never going to get anywhere. Bernie, these people hate you. They hate you because they understand you as a viable threat. The irony of this whole thing is that the DNC had more respect for Bernie's power than Bernie did. Bernie refuses to use the power at his disposal. He refuses to say, no, I'm not going to tell my folks to march in lockstep with you. I'm not going to do that. You guys played us last time, and this time around stuff is way too crazy. But see, what happens is he went along with the Trump is worse than Hitler narrative for point one, so you can't say stuff like that now. See, Bernie, the next progressive that takes the Bernie mantle has got to have an edge about him. He's got to be the type of person that people wouldn't dare rush the stage and grab the mic from him. Can you imagine a woman rushing the stage and trying to grab the mic from Trump? It would never happen. You have got to have an edge about you, Bernie. This is politics, man. And look, nobody's telling you to compromise your principles, but the fact of the matter is, Joe Biden is experiencing an obvious case of cognitive decline. Now, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a specialist, so I don't know what exactly it is, but I do have two eyes, I do have two ears, and I have a semi-functional brain. That's fair game. One of your own people, Bernie, said that Biden was corrupt. He is. And what did you do? You betrayed your own people and you moonwalked. You walked it back. Do you know what signals you're sending to the electorate? I'm weak. You're weak. And everybody knows a weak person is not going to defeat Donald J. Trump. You kept sending out signals about how weak you are, and because of that, the electorate was scared into voting for you. You know, he said it today, and I still don't think he understands, where he was like, people were saying they really, really loved my policies and such, but they were too scared not to vote for Biden. And Bernie doesn't seem to understand that one of the things that's making people afraid is that at least Biden will say, hey, wait a second, Jack. Bernie won't do that. He won't do that. He won't leverage his power. He won't leverage his authority. It is clear that even people that respect him, that like him and agree with his politics, do not respect him. These people rushing the stage and grabbing the mic from him, that's completely disrespectful. It means they have no respect for his authority or his position, and he presented that as who he is. And that's the number one reason you lost. You're weak. You were too afraid to leverage the actual power that you earned, and you were afraid to get dirt under your nails, Bernie. Look, when you're in a garden and you're making beautiful stuff out of the land, you have got to get dirt under your fingernails. Otherwise, no garden, Bernie. And I'm sorry, my guy. This thing where you're going to run some sort of pure campaign where you don't attack other people is ridiculous. When Elizabeth Warren, when they did that silliness, when she said he did say that, yada, 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 you should have raised your hand and said, okay, somebody's lying, and I'm going to leave it to the American people to decide between Elizabeth and I who the liar is. That's what you should have done. You didn't do it. You just sat there, your face turned red. Then you tried to shake her hand. She had the audacity to say, were you calling me a liar on national TV, knowing full well she was hot mic? And you're like, we're not going to talk about this right now. You should have said, damn right I called you a liar because you are a liar. You know that. You've already lied before. You didn't do that. Okay. All right. Well, the American people are looking at all that and they're going, this is a guy that's going to take on Donald Trump because they know how vicious Trump is about to be. You wouldn't take the reins, man. And I fully believe that people believed in your policies, but what does it matter if you can't get elected in the general? And they don't believe that you're going to be strong enough to leverage your power. If you can't even stand up to the DNC, how are you going to stand up to Trump? You know, at the end of like the 2 or 3 debates ago, they basically asked if the person has the most delegates, should they get the nomination, or should the superdelegates still have a say? And everybody on that stage said, yeah, oh yeah, the superdelegates should still have their say. And you were the only one that said, no, we should go with the will of the American people. And instead of saying, stopping the ball right there and saying, I just want everybody to understand what these people just said, the same people who are whining about the Electoral College, supposedly, are also the same people that just said they don't give a damn about the popular vote. These are the people I'm running against. You didn't do that. You had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. You never took them, Bernie. So you lost. This is not a Democratic conspiracy. This is not a DNC conspiracy. You lost because of you. This is you. You're a great, Crystal said it best today. You're a great thought leader, but you're not the person to lead progressives to the promised land. You're not. You're soft. And I don't know what this last stand that you're propping up is, and I think it's very noble and it's nice. The fact of the matter is, all this is going to do is weaken Biden exponentially and protect Trump from whatever this coronavirus is doing, because now the NBA has suspended the entire season until that gets fixed. So we're in a crazy, crazy situation in the world right now. There you go. This is really more of a vent session than anything. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.